Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I shall talk to you about glorious conformity, about the delight and the ultimate pleasure of our unified society.
He makes his madness seem a harmless thing. The madness of a religious zealot. This is not a religious order, Mr. Ellington. These so-called brothers of truth, they're outcasts, misfits, cut off from the world because the world won't have them. Mr. Ellington, please, you must believe me.
The Spirit. It's also different from serious sin. Our motto is, follow the lead of the Spirit, do not grieve the Spirit. To illustrate, suppose you're following another vehicle on a trip to a paradisaical resort. You do not know the precise directions, but no problem. The vehicle in front of you is from the resort and will lead the way. Well, you started off very well, carefully following the car mile after mile. When it changes lanes, you change lanes. When it speeds up, you speed up. But what would happen if you failed to stay alert? Well, you could lag behind considerably. Or possibly you notice that the lead car has moved over into the far left lane, but you stay in the far right lane. Without even realizing it, your lane turns into an exit-only lane, and suddenly you're no longer following the lead car. You're off on some other roadway. Well, all of us are, in effect, on a highway of holiness. We're en route to our paradisaical promises. We follow the lead of the Holy Spirit. Initially, grieving the Holy Spirit does not necessarily involve a serious gross sin. A gross sin could be likened to driving on the same road as the Holy Spirit, but in the opposite direction. And in the same lane. So gross sin is in effect on a collision course with God's Spirit. Whereas grieving the Spirit initially may not be so obvious. We're still heading in the same general direction as the Spirit's leading, but it is as if we took an exit ramp. Now, an exit ramp initially is just a slight veer off the highway. At first appears you're still going in the same direction as the lead car. But eventually what happens? The veer widens. The ramp may come to a stop sign. Now what? If we turn right or left, you see, we're no longer being led by the Spirit. We're on a different road.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I shall talk to you about glorious conformity, about the delight and the ultimate pleasure of our unified society.
The footnote in verse 30 on the word grieving indicates that this could be translated, do not cause sorrow to God's Spirit. It's not as if Jehovah is bitterly angry at us for this initial deviation, but he is saddened by our course of conduct. Well, what might be some examples of grieving the Spirit? Let's review the verses prior to that expression, which surface in verse 30. Let's take a look at the verses 25 through 29. Therefore, now that you put away deceit, each one of you speak truth with his neighbor, because we are members belonging to one another. Did you notice that it said we're members belonging to one another? We're fellow worshipers. Deceitful words and actions can disrupt the unity of the congregation. Deceit is not following the lead of the Holy Spirit. We would be disappointing Jehovah, and this could lead to even more serious sin. Ephesians 4:26. What's another way to grieve the Holy Spirit? Ephesians 4:26 says, be wrathful, that happens, but do not sin. Do not let the sun set while you are still angry. Well, the verse makes clear that getting angry is not the sin. Even Jehovah can get angry. For us humans, it's staying angry that could grieve the Spirit. One brother said that he and his wife have taken to heart the counsel, do not let the sun set while you're still angry. However, he admits there have been some very long sunsets. So when angered, what should we do? Say a silent prayer asking that you display self-control. Change lanes, closely following the Spirit's lead. Well, it might be yet another way we could grieve the Spirit. A slight veer, if not corrected, could put us on another roadway altogether. Ephesians 4:28. Let the one who steals steal no more. Rather, let him do hard work, doing good work with his hands, so that he may have something to share with someone in need. Actual outright stealing, robbing a bank, is more than grieving the Spirit. That is a serious sin on a collision course with the Spirit. But are we closely following the Spirit in principle? For example, Hebrews 13:18 says, we wish to conduct ourselves honestly in all things. On the job, do we take liberties? Do we borrow disposable items from the company? Do we put in a full day of work, not stealing time from our employer? Honesty is the best policy. It's following the Spirit closely in the correct lane, at the right speed, on the highway of holiness.
What a hypocrite.
Was there another exit from the highway of holiness we will want to avoid? Ephesians 4:29. Let a rotten word, so we can grieve the Spirit simply by words uttered. Let a rotten word not come out of your mouth, but only what is good for building up, as the need may be, to impart what is beneficial to the hearers. God's Spirit enables us to guard our speech. When frustrated or under duress, do we resort to inappropriate expressions? Euphemisms, perhaps. A euphemism is defined as the substitution of a less offensive word for one that's harsh, crude, offensive. We grieve the Spirit by resorting to unwholesome speech. How about Matthew 5:28? Jesus said, but I say to you that everyone who keeps on looking at a woman so as to have a passion for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. He said has committed adultery in his heart. Not the literal act at this point, not yet a serious sin. But looking at the woman and developing passion for her, for example, viewing pornography, can be a grieving of the Holy Spirit. We are saddening Jehovah, and at some point, we become distasteful to him. As Jesus said, this can lead to serious sin. Why, even the type of pornography and the frequency of viewing it can become a serious sin in itself. Well, how else do we avoid grieving God's Spirit? Avoiding hurtful gossip, cooperating with the elders, not forming cliques in the congregation. These are all ways that we demonstrate that we follow the Spirit's lead. Ephesians 4:30 again. It says, also do not be grieving God's Holy Spirit, with which you've been sealed for a day of releasing by ransom. Well, let's review. We invite our waiters to join us. They have some props they're going to set up for us. And this is Brett Cox, Michael Banks. And in case you're wondering, they're not real Bethel waiters. Instead, they both work as secretaries in the office of the teaching committee. But we've impressed them into service today. Thank you, Brett and Michael. And in case you were thinking it, this is not a Watchtower cooking show. Instead, we prepared a visual review of the material we just discussed about grieving God's Holy Spirit.